all of these women's faces look exactly the same. You get like positive reinforcement when you have the big lips and the big eyes, and that constant positive reinforcement creates more people that get it, and then it basically starts to subconsciously affect your brain, because our human brain has always liked symmetry with big eyes and big lips, but it was very hard to achieve.
So I think the verification of what's real and not is a new market.
It can like analyze, if you say like track where Philip is on his flight right now, it can go into my email, pull your flight number, cross-reference it to a flight tracker, and then tell me how far your flight is. So basically it's able to like cross application provide you answers as an AI assistant, because AI is somewhat autonomous. Like AI can read your content. So if you come out and you're like, I'm getting married, that goes on to like 90% of your followers'
How
pages.
Do you know that?
Because I've seen it through the content and like how stories
but
show
I just want
up.
to know like how we know that.
What a brand, what a brand, what a brand, what a mighty good brand. Say it again now. What a brand, what a brand, what a brand, what a mighty good brand.
Welcome back to another week of Art of the Brand. Today we're breaking down the transformation of social media in your brand, how it's become interest media, not social media. We're going to talk about Astra AI. This is Google's new AI, which is crazy. Stick around for that. We're going to talk about Facebook, LinkedIn, and great brands come from great leaders. Let's kick it off. It's no longer about social media. It's interest media.
I just think, having watched Gary Vee, being old enough to have kind of watched him from the start to here, like I enjoy going back and seeing his talks. I love how he just puts when he's invited to speak, he puts the whole thing on there. I find it's a great workout inspiration for how weird I am. But it struck me when I was listening to him that the words we use kind of affect how people do things. And so when we call something social media, it reflects that at one point in the past, people posted social things on media. Mm-hmm. So you could say, hey, look what I'm eating today. And I see that thing where every young person takes a picture of every food that they eat. Nobody ever sees it, but they take it. But it's kind of an extension of that. Whereas I think that's what's hurt businesses, because they think of it as social media as opposed to just effective media or interest-based media.
Yeah, well, I think the way to kick this off is, if you're thinking about it in terms of social media is why you're losing, you have to think about it in terms of like interest media. Like, how can you break through to provide like interest and value to the person you're speaking to? Like, there's never been more content on the internet than there is right now. And we're even noticing it as content creators, like how difficult it is to break through. And the mindset shift you have to undergo is that you have to be providing interest to somebody else on the internet.
I think how we frame issues affects how we address them, and it can reflect how successful we are or not. Like, if you look at it from a frame of reference of what the yellow pages were in the old days, you made one ad. Depending on your budget, you could book quarter page, half page, or whatever. And that would be the thing everybody would go to see about your company before a website, right? Then you had a website, but now you have digital media. And so it's not just about posting social things, it's just a different type of media. You can essentially kind of post a different type of yellow page ad every day, following a plan or a strategy. Like, it's not like create one piece of print media, pay to have people see it somewhere, and then you're good. Like, social media is a living, evolving way of communicating with your clients.
But it's also so much more than that. You know, like it's actually everything. Like, you have to be getting ahead of creating content, because the world it's changing at such a rate. When we talk about Astra AI, like, they basically have these like these new acronyms. So it was called GUI, which is graphical user interface, and it was what made the iPhone iconic. So like the apps, the buttons, the swipes, like basically how everything was laid out from a graphical standpoint. And then it moved to VUI, which was voice user interface. So it was like basically Siri and Alexa, like you're talking to things, and that was basically the interface was through like noise. But now it's like contextual user face. They're calling it CUI. And it's like basically the new consumers are going to be AI agents. Like, we're going to be living in a world where you're asking AI who is the best person for the job. And like the way to index that is like through content. So a lot of people that have been very good for a long time based off of word of mouth, they're going to be completely wiped out as their consumer base continues to get older.
I think a lot of people don't get the training to understand your business or professional reputation is now 4-dimensional in terms of what people can see before they hire you.
Even talking yesterday to an interior designer, and she's like, yeah, like I'm super busy and like I don't have time, and like I'm already turning down jobs right now. And I'm like, we're not talking about next month. Like we're talking about the changes that you need to make, because the world is going through a massive change. You need to be like open and aware to what's coming, because it's all changing. The way that we even conceptualize the use of the internet is going to be completely changed. Like there's going to be no reason for me to like mindlessly search through Google Ads anymore. I'm just going to say, this is exactly what I want to my AI agent that's going to know everything about me, that's going to know all the photos I like, the photos I save, the reason why I want that butter yellow tank top. And they're going to find me the exact one without me even doing a single search, because I actually really don't care about aimlessly scrolling through Revolve. I'd rather have an AI autonomous agent be like, Camille, these are the 45 things that you would love right now.
Every morning you get delivered it at an appropriate time.
It's totally going to change.
And so you have to understand, how is an AI agent going to make those decisions? You don't have to be the biggest thing in the world. You just have to be relevant to your target audience.
To take this in a completely different direction, when I even look at the algorithm, like when I'm seeing like what pushes through, like what you have to say, like how often you have to be posting and creating content. And again, there's different benchmarks for success. For the average person listening, like just creating content 3 to 5 times per week is going to be enough. But when you're at the level of like wanting to be seen as the best in the world, like it's changes the conversation you're having by way of how much content you're creating. But even to one of our clients, like she recently went through like facial surgery. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, like you got to record video content while like your face is healing, because you've gone through like plastic surgery. And like she did it, and her view count has been through the roof because like she was recording content while her face was healing. And like this is a content creator who's like, I'm trying to break through the algorithm. I'm trying to get views. And that's based on her sealing her parameters.
But how I would have contextualized that is, don't do it just because it's like, look, I'm doing something. Tie it to her business, like, because that person is a coach. It's like, look, I'm trying to teach you to be authentic, right? And being authentic means not being fake. So this is me being authentic. I want to keep my image to be this, so I'm going through it. Like there has to be a message there. I think there's a big trend against juvenile content. And that's why I think the marketing industry has been a bit ruined, because you're bringing in all these new people who are swipe junkies, and they have good ideas of trends, but you end up getting these vanity metrics, which is like, it's called social media. And I think followers is equated with popularity. And I think that exists in a lot of people's mind, is I'm more popular if I have more followers, as opposed to, do I have quality followers? Do I have more impact? And that's why I think reframing it from social media into interest media, now you don't have to have a ton of followers to get a viral video. You just have to make something that's relevant.
Well, you don't need really any followers to have a viral video. But here's where I agree and I disagree with how you're communicating about this. Ultimately, everything you do has to be strategic, right? Like, I'm not saying you should forego strategy. And I think that's what makes this conversation complicated to have, because you can have someone that's like throwing trends at you and it just doesn't make sense. It's stupid. You look dumb and it's not tied to your business. And it's easier to fall into that trap. However, what I'm also noticing though is the accounts at the highest level are falling into the breaking news trends. Like, they're adopting it to their brand because you have to break through the algorithm. And that's like the issue, is that you can be like, to be only cerebral online is difficult. You actually need that like flash bang breakthrough, because there's so much content. And that's why the whole reframing and rephrasing of interest media, like you're even creating content, like it's visually disrupting when you see someone who, like, this is the issue of her followers. She's got a bunch of followers. Over 70% of her followers do not see her content. The average person, over 70% of their followers does not see their content on an average basis. When she goes through a massive like life change, when she's injured, when she's going through like that breaks through to all of her followers. And that's why the reason this whole conversation came up is about a month before.
How does it break through to her followers?
Because it's a shocking piece. Like, okay, if you announce...
Let me just back up, because we have to be accurate in marketing. It breaks through to her followers. Why?
Because AI is somewhat autonomous. Like AI can read your content. So if you come out and you're like, I'm getting married, that goes on to like 90% of your followers'
How do you
pages.
know that?
Because I've seen it through the content and like how
No,
stories
but I
show
just want
up.
to know like how we know that.
I know that through research. I know that through the data that I see. The whole thing of why stories is so exhausting is that if I throw up a story, the AI algorithm will suppress that story to a lot of my followers. You see useless stories because you still follow 1,500 people and the average person is posting stories most days. Like most people post content most days now. So because you follow 1,500 people, you're still, every time you load Instagram, there's going to be stories for you to see. The question is which stories in what order are you seeing? So not always the same people would show up on your stories as
I'm mostly
options to
seeing
click
10
through.
people on my stories.
But that's also because the algorithm has decided that you are the most aligned, right? So that's why there's like different layers of complexity. When you're creating a piece of content, you're competing with their mother, their siblings, their boyfriend, their best friends, their sorority sisters. Like you're competing with the influencers they follow. You're competing with so many people. On top of that, you now also have to hope that like even when we post it like the hot or not, my first story will get thousands of views. By the time we get to the 9th or 10th story, it's like a few hundreds of views.
I can follow that.
And it's no, because I know, but the average person doesn't realize how involved the algorithm is in boosting or suppressing your content. That's why the whole concept of this being interest media is so interesting, because even like we talk about like Becca Bloom, the Asian billionaire who like has crazy expensive stuff and like posts about it. She's grown to 3 million followers since she posted in January, because whenever you go to her page, it's like, you could literally tally it up. It's like $500,000 in products she's like showing. And you're like, whoa. It's
but this is where I find, and I want to push back, I find in marketing is infected with so many anecdotal stories. And just let me finish. That's why this big person does that. But I don't know what their budget is. I don't know how many developers, like I think for most people who have businesses under 5 million or whatever the number is, the constant reference to some celebrity.
She's not a celebrity.
Oh, she got 3 million followers.
No, but I'm saying she grew from January until June.
But you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
like
I understand what
from
you're
a business
saying.
perspective, I just find often we're just saying, oh, this is what this big person is doing. But
Okay, but here's why I say this. The reason why I say this at that level is if you're not, like, you need to understand how hard it is to be able to grow into scale so that you can measure yourself accurately from where you're at. Because if you're only posting 3 times per week and it's the same boring background and you're not doing a visual hook and you're not, like, there's a reason why you're growing extremely slowly. Like, you have to realize at the highest level why someone would grow from January until June to 3 million when it's almost impossible to grow followers at this rate, is because she's pattern disrupting. It's visually interesting. If you were to analyze that client of ours content from when she was healing from facial surgery from before, the numbers are insane because she was doing a visual disruptor. The AI understands humans. Like, it's pretty simple to say humans judge humans.
That. But what's missing in marketing a lot of time is data. Like, how many of potential clients didn't stop following her because they were tired of seeing stuff about her plastic surgery, right? Like, it's that qualitative data. There's quantitative data, but from a quantitative data perspective, you know, I find you get lots of claps and likes on kind of flippant, but that's why the social media thing is interesting to me, because I think it speaks to people's egos about wanting to feel popular rather than being effective. And there's social media where you post, here's the meal I did, here's my dog or whatever. But then I think there's signal media, which I was just thinking about, which kind of tells your audience what's going on that's relevant to what you're trying to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just find like there's so many people chasing trends and vanity metrics and then talking about what everybody else is doing. And they're not digging deep into how do I transmit my message on digital platforms to the people who care about it? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like
the average person that's going online is going online in exchange for what used to be turning on the TV for brain rot. So like a theme last week was like propaganda that I'm not falling for. And it basically, of that person you follow, you could, in a very simple one sentence, see what they stand for from a values perspective. It was very simple from a trend perspective.
I understand that. It's become the Inquirer of, you know, that old tabloid newspaper. With social media has a tabloid newspaper feel to it. You know what I mean? In terms of how to entertain by being ridiculous, right? But then
that's not ridiculous.
Some people want to tune into Bloomberg. You know, that's the interesting thing about the algorithm, right? Is it throws in some tabloid, it throws in a Bloomberg, it throws in a sports, it throws in a history, and then it allows you to capture people. But if you're just making tabloid content, you know, what is that doing for your brand?
From a week to week standpoint, there's actually not a ton of content that's like really breaking through. So if you get two super viral videos per year, like that's incredible.
Okay, but this is the context. Like super viral, the benchmark is artificially designed to make people feel inadequate. Like if you're Nike, okay, yeah, then you want 3 viral videos a year. You have a production budget to make content, that's great. But if you're a small business owner, what I'm trying to get across in counterpoint to you is this is my message to the listeners, which we may disagree on. Stop being distracted by trends. Double down on what is interesting in your business, what is authentic in your business, and start making good content that speaks to your audience, because people are wasting your time and money chasing trends so you can get vanity metrics that may or may not do your business. I think that's the way to go viral, is to actually stop doing what other people are doing as a shortcut to success and start creating things that are actually meaningful in your life and in your client's life and reflect your mission. Eventually you'll get your virality in your target audience. But I just see a giant market of people constantly suggesting trends. And then the whole system is getting cluttered with trends. And so I'm kind of hungry for people who are saying something that sets a trend or that does something different.
But I'm obviously not disagreeing with that. Like that's why I set this up from the beginning of you have to have strategy. The issue with what you're saying though, and this is what I'm trying to work through, is the reality is when you're creating a cerebral strong piece of content, there's a very small percentage that it's going to break through, because like there's so many things working against you. You have to have the right hook. It has to be the right length. It has to be the right level of interest. It has to have there has to be all these different buckets and boxes. So you should have a marketing mix to the way that you create content, because you're probably only going to have one really good piece of content per week or every 2 weeks. So, but you need to be posting more frequently, because the way that post pushes out and how you stay top of mind to convert is that you need to just be constantly top of mind. So that's where you just need to have a mix.
No, I struggle with that. And I'm not saying just cerebral, I'm saying authentic, but where I struggle, and we've had some of our staff say, Philip, for God's sakes, can you just make your content shorter?
Like simplify it.
Right? Because I want to share, and they're like, no, 15 to 30 seconds, make it really simple. And I feel like but that actually does get people to pay attention and brings people into your deeper content.
But you also need the social media is the most important thing for your business, period. If you don't have a team, you don't have a cohort, a strategist, you also have to be in the game. That's the thing that blows my mind the most, is that the average person is I'm prepared to hire someone, but by hiring them, I don't want to be involved in it. And that's when you say it's so complex, it's complex because not only are you trying to communicate, not only you're trying to sell, but you're also trying to position yourself for why you're different in a way that makes simple sense to someone in a split second, while also trying to break through the algorithm to get to them. There's so many different areas of, sure, there's trends, sure, there's news, but what angle do I take? How fast do I do it? What style do I put it out? There's so many elements to it that we need to change the word of social media, because it's truly becoming everything to a business. Before, the word brand was kind of this new age term, with the rise of the internet. I'm rereading Obsessed, and she's in 2007 is kind of when branding really became a thing. And now I think it's social media is such a stupid term for something that's literally so important for the average business that we need to position a change.
It's social media marketing. Really, it's just marketing is digital. Do you know what I mean? It's created this fake kind of category.
It's even when you do something in real life, it's literally so that someone can take a photo and put it on Instagram. Yeah. We live our lives on our phones. And when brands are doing anything outside of it not being digital, it's so that it does better on digital. I can't even tell you the last time that Nike went viral, other than them paying for a commercial or something in real life that they basically paid through a backhanded channel to go viral.
Digital media is the most impactful thing on anyone's business today.
Period.
Period. Right? So if you look at your business right now and you don't say that I have a great strategy for digital media marketing, right? There's a reason why you're not where you want to be.
Yeah.
And you don't, and it does seem complex. So if you have a small team, you need a guide. If you have a bigger team, you need a coacher. And if you're wanting to scale, you may want a good agency or amazing consultant, but you need a freaking plan because, right? There are some companies that are spending $500,000 a month on social media that's garbage. If you focus on your business and dive into doing it well, you can achieve similar growth rates as a big company by being creative. You don't need an army to be effective on social media. You need to be creative. What are you laughing at me for?
I actually disagree. There's really no businesses that are putting $500,000 into socials and are losing. Most businesses are putting $500,000 into anything else but socials, and then they're losing, and then they have no money for socials, and they can't understand why. Like,
I'm talking about giant Fortune 500.
They're not paying $500,000 on socials. In fact, they often think about it actually for a second. If I was to like bleep out all of the names, right? Think about the last brand, the big one. That reached out, the drink one. Yeah. If you think about all of them, they actually outsource the socials to like the intern. They're putting all of their money into like gas station placements or Google ad PPC or like meta ad, like it's all ad spend. It's like display placements. It's traditional. It's like, it's pretty hard to spend $500,000 on socials for it to not work. Because ultimately, if you're paying $500,000 on socials, like how expensive could graphics be? Like the $500,000 on socials would have to be like full blown video productions and series, and or
they're ads and boosted, but they're not effective because nobody's watching them.
But that's not like that's what I'm saying though. It's like actually if businesses were like, look, this other huge company that reached out a few weeks ago, the huge conglomerate, kind of an everything store, they're spending so much on bottom of the funnel ads, and they're like, hey, like we need justification that like top of funnel works, but like also by the way, like we can't really like have the short-term dip of like losing all of the bottom of the funnel marketing, but like we also have no brand awareness because all we're doing is just paying on AdWords, so like hoping that people just purchase our product when they search us. And I'm like, okay, so you have 80% of your spend is on Google AdWords that is proving to be dying, but your now business is like hitched in this place where you never can effectively move away from it because you're not getting a massive injection for you to diversify your approach. And you're just like hoping that I can come up with a way that you can still spend the majority of your budget on Google ads, but like see a sizable impact. Like it's literally, the thinking is so stupid. You should be tripling down. If you can spend all of your money on socials, you will kill these idiot companies. Like, they're idiots.
Just when we wrap up on this, to me, the trends thing is something that's tied to shortcuts, right? And in business, shortcuts generally don't work. Like if you find the first content that's trending, and you could be the second or third one to do it.
Oh yeah, that's the way.
You ride that wave.
That's the way.
Right?
Yeah. Like when I did the blister packaging for the Barbie, I got like 25,000 views in a day. Yeah. But it's because I did it like 10 minutes after I saw one of the first people do it. So that's where I'm saying, like, if you're doing trends like 2 weeks later, which is often like bootleg marketing people, like it's not going to work, and you're totally right. But if you can break the news, that's the way that you need to see interest media. Is it's only interesting if it's new. Okay, so let's move on to Facebook. This is another thing that we're hearing Gary Vee just being such a hard ass on, of like basically stop millennials being so full of yourself. There's so much glitz and glamour with Instagram. Facebook is an untapped opportunity, which is effectively the argument. Give me your thoughts, Philip. Let's really come at me for this one.
I did say to Camille in one of our nice heated discussions, like, you're so tied to Instagram because it's tied to the popularity metric. Like everybody, and there's other platforms that work better, but they're not cool. And Facebook ads just seem to work so much better. But people are so focused on Instagram because it's addictive to go on Instagram and see the followers, and every one of us falls victim to it. But words talk, numbers scream. And so run your ads on different platforms and see which one works. And if the least cool one works, who cares?
I've seen a lot of powerful data, and especially like with our clients, that like Facebook ads are really outperforming. The only thing that I struggle with for like wrapping my head around is I don't love Facebook for a few reasons. One is I don't find the approach to the platform intuitive, like because it's very much like timeline focused. I don't feel like I'm getting like I don't actually really care about people I went to high school with. Like I don't actually.
But you don't spend time on Facebook.
No, I don't, for that reason. Like the whole point of Facebook is
But because you don't like it. But I'm talking about it doesn't work as a business. I don't care what you like. I care about what works.
that's also why we need to break this down. Because you're talking about ads. If
No,
we're
well, I'm talking also about videos.
okay, but if you're talking about organic content,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm saying, I as a user don't organically enjoy Facebook, which a lot of millennials don't, because it's not as intuitive as a platform and a program. Like even the way Facebook is set up, it's set up as friends, not followers. So there's a cap to how many friends you can have on Facebook. It's 5,000. Right. Whereas on Instagram, it's more of a research platform. Like it's become more of a search engine. So Instagram, when you search things in the top bar, it even has a Google answer for you, and it pushes things in that, like, that's why.
I'm going to have to go ahead and disagree with you there. Another tough video reference there for our listeners. Because Facebook groups are so effective and so popular amongst people who are in buying mode. Like I think Facebook algorithm does a really good job of getting your content in front of people it should, and people don't recognize it. But Facebook groups is another area that's very undervalued in it, right?
Facebook groups are majorly undervalued. And we have a client that has a clothing company, and there's like this entire like Facebook group where they like sell like used of that brand. Like there's and it's like crazy. They have like 8,000 members. Like it has this whole like community and culture and club. The problem is that even the owner is like, I don't even know what to do with this. Like this is a huge, big thing. But she's like, which isn't really that useful to learn from, because like that's a crazy thing. But I find Facebook is harder to, you're right. You are correct. Facebook is a major untapped opportunity. And for the average person listening to it, if that excites you because Facebook is more your space, go to it.
Your explanation actually captures my point. You just don't want to do it. You're like, millennials don't want to do it. But it doesn't matter what you want. Like, just find out where your interest is underpriced, where you can get the most attention for your effort. And it might be slogging through Facebook, which is not as cool. It's not as click, swipe, right? But it's a place where people go for a bunch of different experiences, whether it's marketplace, groups, pages, and updates.
That's just why it's complicated. Like when I post something on Instagram and TikTok, it can go to all of Instagram and TikTok without me spending any money. On Facebook, it can't, because Facebook is all about friends. So that's why Gary Vee talks about it so much, is because if you're starting out and you're a small business, like you're Ashley, right? And like she's the insurance mom. When she posts something on her Facebook, that's a way better place for her to sell, because like there are all of her kids, like other soccer moms and stuff. Like as a small business owner, that's majorly untapped for her. I'm in a bit of a weird, Facebook is great for you too, but I'm in a bit of a weird place, because like when I post something on Instagram, my hope is that it gets to 500,000, which it can't do on my Facebook friends feed, because
See, when I post something, my hope is to find the most profitable client ever. It's not tied to a number. Do you see the difference?
But I do share everything on Facebook. So I'm not disagreeing with you. Like everything that I post is shared on
But do you see
Facebook,
the
on my
frame of
personal
reference?
Facebook.
And this is why, this is not what you do, but this is why I think a lot of marketing people can lead companies astray, is because a lot of them are millennials or younger. And they suggest where they're comfortable being, right? As opposed to who is the audience of the business and where are they, and what's the best use of their dollars to get there. But I just see, especially working with younger people in the industry, all they ever talk about are like Instagram metrics or views or likes, right? And I don't see that kind of what is the best place for the client to get the business they need to go to the next level.
I agree with you. I also, though, think that there is space for you to tailor a strategy to what also makes sense based on your habits, your customer, your approach. Like you bring up a great point. Like if you have a clothing company that skews for women over 40 and you bring in a marketing manager who's 21 and she's like, you should put everything on TikTok, that probably is not strategic for short-term sales. Like you should be on Facebook, right? Like that, you're correct. Like that makes sense. There's also, though, a lot of brands that have swung back to advertising on Meta because the ROAS is stronger on Facebook than it is on Instagram. Like
anywhere.
And because Instagram is so saturated, there are more people on Instagram. There's more people on Instagram this year than there are on TikTok. It's 2.5 billion per month. TikTok is down to 1.9. Facebook is behind the two of them.
I think Facebook's the most widely used.
Instagram is number one. Back to number one, because TikTok was number one. I just did this video on this, so I just did the research last week.
In terms of time on platform.
Users on platform. Length of time on platform, but that was not the stat. It was 2.5 billion per month on Instagram versus 1.9 billion on TikTok.
All right.
So let's talk about Astra by Google. It's their product by DeepMind. This is really what Apple was trying to go to market with first, and Google beat them.
What is it?
It's literally Google's shot at God mode. Like it's insane. So Astra is Google's DeepMind prototype for a universal multimodal assistant. It reads and responds in real time using your camera, your screen, your voice, your location, your email, and calendar. So basically, it can like analyze if you say like track where Philip is on his flight right now. It can go into my email, pull your flight number, cross-reference it to a flight tracker, and then tell me how far your flight is. So basically, it's able to like cross application provide you answers as an AI assistant.
There's a lot to unpack here. One, my deep-seated resentment of Siri on Apple.
Oh my God,
and
worst.
I don't know why Google isn't doing a better job of marketing how bad Siri is and how good Google Assistant was comparative to it. And then you had Google Lens, which was superior to anything. And now you've kind of taken Google Assistant, Google Lens, and created an AI agent, and Google now dominates. But you can't dominate unless you actually have their platforms and their phones. Really, it's hard to do with an iPhone. So I don't know why Google isn't pushing this more, because I really love where that's going.
Well, it literally just launched, so they couldn't have pushed it anymore. But it's and that's also why they renamed it, right? Like this is a whole another level from Siri. Like it's not even comparable to Siri.
What do you think of Astra?
It's not great.
No.
Like I mean it has that like sci-fi, like the future is here feel, but it's not as like simple to say as Alexa or Siri. Like Astra is it's just a no thanks for me. But the thing that's really crazy is the potentiality, right? Like think about where like wearable tech is going to go. Like even being able to be like plugged into like an Oura ring or like a daily diagnostic for like communicating to you like when you need to eat, when you need to sleep, like where your glucose level is, like ordering you lunch. Like it's literally going to be a full-blown built-in assistant.
Yeah, there's a couple of issues that come up. People are concerned about privacy, right? Because it's going to see everything. And whereas if Google is doing that, you know what I mean? Like what data is being shared to Google. But, you know, I've dealt with this in terms of copyright and patents and even privacy. Old frames of references that slow people down are now getting in the way of momentum. So my advice to people who are like fixated on PIPEDA or privacy issues and patents is you're going to get left behind trying to be perfectly safe. Like you have to move. So although Astra, you have to take this with a grain of salt. Like I would allow it to see all of my stuff because I want to move fast, because I know that I'm going to get to the next level faster than the others. But if I worry, I see this in law with some people, they're terrified of making a mistake. So they're resisting ChatGPT, or they're resisting doing things quickly, but they're going to get so outpaced because an old way of thinking is making them say, we need 100% protection, 100% certainty. And with Astra, like if that gets used properly by a high functioning individual, you're going to go at 100 times the speed of somebody who's doing it by the old way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care to tell people, like, I mean, do what you want to do. Like, ultimately, there's nothing in my inbox that's that private. I think the question comes down to is, like, how do clients, I guess, like, want that to be read and perceived? But, like, ultimately, there's a cost to everything, and there's a cost to not adopting that. And especially when you live and you work in a digital world, like, I don't really, again, to go back to my, like, example, like, I would prefer my Oura ring to be synced with my alarm and my calendar to tell me like when I need to go to bed versus like, okay, you're hungry, you've hit ketosis, we're ordering you lunch, or like here's an alarm for you to go eat, or like, hey, okay, so we've cross-referenced, like you have to figure out when you need to leave to go pick up Philip from the airport, like leave at 7. Like to me that trade-off is like
huge.
Resist it if you want. I mean, I'm going to be riding it ahead and I can't wait to see where it gets, but
because humans need to be, in today's market, you have to be amplified by AI, right? If you're not amplified by the effective use of AI, you are just going to lose the race.
I think it's actually just going to go, it's going to like almost go back. There's just going to be such a massive division of class. There's going to be almost these like, it's going to be like the serfs and the lords, you know, like it's people who are plugged into AI versus like all of these bodies that are going to be left over. Like what happens? Like where does this go if we aren't adopting it at the same rate?
That's why the last article I wrote, I said this is a huge issue people aren't dealing with in politics. Like nobody is talking about the disruption that's coming to the labor market as AI replaces 40% of jobs.
Faster than like more.
Like what's going to happen to like nobody, we're talking about nonsense in politics, but nobody's talking about a plan to help people make sure they stay ahead of that game. Astra, I don't love the name, but I love the potential implications. I just wish, I guess there may be glasses. Like if you could wear see-through glasses so that Astra could see what you're looking at, as opposed to like the videos I saw is like they're walking around with the phone saying, hey, Astra, what's that? Hey, Astra, can you order me that? It'd be amazing if you could have something just on the side of your head that it's looking at what you're looking at. And so I can look at something in the store and say, hey, can you compare the price of this in this store with everywhere else right now or something?
I disagree with you. I think that there should be like an input because there's just an abundance of information I don't require.
Oh, but the input is the voice,
no,
right, when you integrate it.
But I'm saying like if it's not, I would rather not be having to wear glasses everywhere if I don't wear glasses for me to be like, I like this one item in this store.
But how it becomes most effective if it can see your surroundings, like it tracks your body with an Aura ring. You want it to be able to see what you're seeing, and as you walk by, it goes, hey, I noticed that you were looking for this. We're walking by the pharmacy right now. Do you want to pick that up? Right? Like that's where it's magnified because it's seeing what you're seeing, but it has all the data of what you've done in the last month to suggest what the best thing to do is.
I don't want that. I would rather it collect through like my search history and data and input to make my life easier than be like, hey, you're driving past a pharmacy, like pull over and get your like.
Well, it just would give you a reminder because it's seeing what you're not. That's like why like the Tesla with all its cameras sees what's going on and can feed inputs back. Like it'd be nice to have that ability. It's just where do you put the cameras on your body so it's not a pain in the butt.
Well, I think we should just talk about branding implications with Astra. So the core implications really is that AI agents are the new consumers, right? And that's like the biggest shift is that it's no longer focused on the graphic design. So before we would design websites, we would design socials, we would design all of this stuff for like a human aesthetically seeing it. Like brand as we know it is completely going to change because of the person who's going to be analyzing it, and it's no longer going to be human. So it's getting ahead of understanding what the AI sorts versus what the human needs.
So when you say it's no longer going to be human, humans are still going to process brands.
Well, there's obviously still going to be a massive, like brands are still going to have a role, right? Because the AI agent is more likely to refer the best choice, right? So Google is an arbiter of relevance. Like it's only going to recommend a restaurant or a hair salon that has high reviews. So the brands with more reviews or more likelihood of success are who's going to be picked. And that's ultimately what comes from a brand. But there's an element to understanding that the AI agent has parameters in which it works within for making a decision / a choice. And based on those new parameters, businesses need to be ahead of the change that's coming so that they can ride the wave. Like we're not really having this conversation to talk to Yeti, right? We're having this conversation for the business that's like, okay, I'm afraid of AI. What's happening? What's coming? How do I stay relevant? And that's the piece that you need to consider is that this is happening, like this is a breaking news environment. So you need to understand that with Astra, it's this move to CUI, which is effectively context. It's contextual user interface.
Yeah, I think it's successful if you have the whole platform of the suites. Like it almost seems like the world will move into tribes or nation states of like whatever their AI suite is, whether it's Apple, Meta, Microsoft, Google, because once you kind of you want to integrate your whole life, you get more out of it if everything is on one platform that talks to each other.
Well, you bring up another interesting point, like the privacy versus utility, because people are really interested for how Apple approaches this with like kind of their whole messaging campaign with being privacy focused. The only thing that sucks is that Apple doesn't own all the different applications, right? Google has a fantastic Gmail and Google Calendar and like Google, like, so it has all the different pieces. Whereas Apple, like, I don't use Apple Mail, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I use iMessage, but I guess that's kind of the question, is like privacy versus utility. Like, who's going to come out on top of being like better at privacy versus utility? From a brand perspective, complicated is like, if you offer a fantastic bespoke experience, but you're harder to find, things have already been working against you, but it's only going to get worse. And the reason why AI has been so powerful is when I type in, give me a creative brief for this client on this topic and include these few pieces, what comes out is good enough. And for the average person, they can clock out 3 hours earlier. The process, like the sacrifice of the work, like all those pieces are lost. Even when you're planning a vacation, like the way that ChatGPT spits it out, it seems like it's just saved you 9 hours of work, but like you just don't go through the steps anymore. It kind of also goes full circle with the tariff situation. Like, so much of what brands have been pushing is they've been snake oiling shitty products with a nice brand. It was easy with a template to build, like,
with a nice logo. 'Cause
with a nice logo.
If the product sucked, it doesn't have the brand pillar.
It's not going to be a great brand, but like it could dupe people in a 12-month cycle.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the issue, is that the problem right now is for the majority of like these burgeoning businesses is like they haven't been good enough. They were selling not well-made goods overseas for like pennies on the dollar, and they were charging a premium price point, and they were putting a lot of it into Facebook ads, and people were buying it compulsively coming out of COVID, and we have all this junk at our house. And it's, when you think about the AI, when you're like, hey, I want a butter yellow workout outfit because like butter yellow is in right now, the options were often good enough, and that's why this whole Astra thing is exciting. But then when you think about the larger magnitude of quality goods and services, experiences, like how much this is going to kill those.
I wonder if brand has a resurgence because of the tariffs. Because when you remove very cheap stuff that just gets something slapped on it, it's being bought at Walmart because it's cheap. If people are now like, okay, well, now I just need to buy good socks, not just cheap socks, I think brand comes back into play. If tariffs limit just the cheapest products, people now will be looking at, okay, what is the best product for me to buy so I can keep it for a few years? That there may be a resurgence in brand now that these tariffs have come in.
Well, I think there needs to be, the whole tariff thing though, to me, it was very needed. Like, it's just been years of selling crap at a premium price point where the consumer is paying this massive margin so that a small handful of business owners can fly private and can celebrate at the Ritz. And it's been this like circle fest of posting on social media a select few of like how fabulous their life is, and people have been buying these products to buy into that lifestyle, and it's so broken. And we've actually needed this approach to tariffs, and it's so difficult to talk on because so many of our clients, they're so devastated by the tariff price point, but we needed to have it leveling out. Like, we need to stop just all buying piles and piles of junk from China that we don't need at the expense of making such a small handful of people rich.
And even just from authentic, I was watching that video on Italy, the laws about saying something's made in Italy.
Yeah.
And the actual
it's like
law,
one piece.
the law in Italy says there has to be one part of it. So what they do is the whole purse is made in China, and they sew on the zipper, and it says made in Italy. What that is, that has been kind of a move away from brand because it's not authentic about what's happening.
And it time's up. And whether it's not this year, like, where does this go? Like, when would a business be incentivized to not make a 3,000% margin? And then the other issue too is you can't even make it on your home soil because we have no infrastructure. Like, we have this one client that's like, I actually can't get made this product here. Like, we don't have the sewers, we don't have the materials, we don't have the patterns, and it's like that has to change.
And what I'd say to people, every obstacle provides an opportunity. So I just see a lot of people saying, oh, these tariffs are horrible. It's like, well, what's it going to do to the market? And if you didn't invest in your brand for 10 years and just took advantage of cheap product from China that you could chuck out, well, that's the consequence of not investing in your brand. But you have to have a brand, and then you have to find a way to turn a struggle into an opportunity. And I think for a lot of good brands, they'll be able to do it and then elevate themselves.
Yeah, ultimately, I feel like I'm in a complicated place. You know, on one hand, we're all chasing the Olipop, 4-year billion-dollar exit from Pepsi. When can we go back to spending your lifetime, like building something that is like a legacy that you put 30 or 40 years into? Like, at what point is that the pursuit of the brand? Like, I'm an artist in how I approach branding. Like, I don't want to be used for a double-digit consulting, to use these pieces to just put more junk in a landfill. And that's why I talked about the Skims, like double nipple pierced bra this past week. And like, I respect Skims, but I'm not going to respect brands that are just producing junk that's going to end up in landfills for like a bump of the week, like to get a million people like being like, oh, this is awesome, and someone buying it for a Halloween costume. Like, there has to be a point where we have the right values and we're in the game for the right reason.
Like, don't spend your time lamenting that you can't make money the way you want to make money. Spend time thinking, okay, well, there's going to be some disruption. What can I do to build something that matters? Like, whether it's in the clothing or in any industry.
Yeah, like we've worked with so many famous people on the internet that come to us and they have no cash on hand, but like every other week they're on a private jet to St. Bart's with like a new Birkin, and it's like you don't realize what's happening behind the scenes. Like, they're selling you junk so that they can go on more private flights to the islands, like, and have bags that are 99% made in China and then shipped over to Italy so they can get stamped made in Italy so they can charge you $35,000. Like, there's a point to branding that's also broken, and we're not talking about it, and we just want to like keep everyone brainwashed, like, no, everything's okay here, like, don't look over here, like, we all still want the Dior bag even though it's proven to be $45 to be made and it's being sold for 12. That's not what branding should be. Like, branding was meant to be like, it meant something. It was supposed to like break through, and it was supposed to mean something to a generation so that it held value. When the thing doesn't hold value and it has a brand is when the whole freaking thing is broken.
Like, there's an element of breads and circuses to society now where we can identify the luxury bag market, but it exists also in pickup trucks. Like, it's no secret in the auto industry that pickup trucks have the highest margin of anything. And so you have people buying pickup trucks that are like $110,000, but the margin is the biggest because it's playing on the need to feel like you're tough as opposed to being tough. And then you compare that to, like building an actual brand. Like, when you look at all of the pickup trucks outside of Tesla, they're almost all the same, right? There's no difference. So people are just distracted chasing things that don't actually have real brand value. And that's where everybody who's looking at their business has to think, how am I going to build real brand value by doing something unique?
I agree. Totally agree. Cool.
Hot or not?
Hot or not. So this one's actually really interesting. So this video that's blowing up this week is basically like, it's called like Instagram face, and like how all of these women's faces look exactly the same because of like filters and fillers, injections. And the whole point that she makes in the video, which is really fascinating, is you get like positive reinforcement when you have the big lips and the big eyes, and that constant positive reinforcement creates more people that get it. And then it basically starts to subconsciously affect your brain, because our human brain has always liked symmetry with big eyes and big lips, but it was very hard to achieve.
It was rare.
Right? It was rare. So now that you're getting these dopamine hits of like these perfect faces, it's skewing how you see your own. And basically we're like morphing into kind of all like looking the same.
We're trying to all look the same on Instagram. Like, it's weird how it's changing the population as opposed to moving back to loving the individual beauty of a situation or a person, or nuance. Like, nuance is the next N word. Nobody wants to talk about nuance or difference in meaning, and so when I see that everybody is looking the same now, like, what's that doing to the species?
Well, it even goes back to what we saw in Korea, right? Like the copying and pasting of brands. Like
Korea, like, it's amazing how.
But not even on that, not even on the beauty front. And what we're saying is that the actual beauty trend in Korea is that they actually all try to assimilate. Like, when you went to Sephora, it was crazy. Like, they actually literally had 3 shades of foundation, and I was the darkest foundation, because there's no variance in skin and ethnicity. But anyways, that part aside, from a branding, it was like you could literally copy and paste the exact same store, and it was just like a different logo. Like, all of the items were the same, the layout was the same. They had a photo booth in the same place. It was like,
Yeah.
I felt like I was in a movie where it's like, it was deja vu. Like I've been here before, but like it was weird.
That's pop-up business, right? Because they pop up and they die. They pop up and they die. That's not people who are on the path to a great brand.
No, but I mean, that's no different than all of the faces that are on this. Like, they're not showing faces that are changing the world. They're showing faces that are getting tons of views every single day, which are not, particularly impactful people for the right reasons, right? So it's really no different. Like, one of the main faces was Carly Bible, like a YouTuber for makeup. Like they all look the same, but it's really no different than that pop-up store in Korea, like relevant for a moment, dies, relevant for a moment, like dies.
I don't know how it's sustainable as well for people to try and have this face, but I don't know if it's hot or not, but I think there's going to be a hot trend towards more individual and unique looking people. I think we've saturated the let's look the same. And I think brands will do, and brands in the past did that, right? By kind of picking the freckled model or or somebody else. But I think
that's the thing actually right now is the biggest models are actually trans. They're like men that transition to women. Like that's like the modeling world right now. It's like so many female models are so frustrated because like all of the roles are going to men that are being turned into women.
Sorry?
Like trans women.
You mean women?
My only thing I just want to make sure if I say trans women, like is it clear that it was a man before versus if you say like a trans man?
Well, why don't you tell us what you think it is?
Well, I just want to make sure that it was clear that it was so
to me it's men taking over women's jobs, but that's not
the reason is that it's when you say like it's a unique look, right? Because it's like there's something uncanny to it.
The reason why they can do it is the men may have a bit stronger bone structures in the face, but what the women are doing in terms of the filters and the fillers, a man can do. Right? So it's actually it's hard for a man to look feminine, but if we make femininity bloated lips and all of this stuff, they can get the same
treatments.
Thing,
no,
right?
exactly. That's the whole thing. Well, even more to that actually is that in fashion, the trend has never really been like over injected, right? It's been very like, angular cheekbones, like almost weird looking, right? But what's interesting to what you're saying is that the models that are taking these places, they can be injected because they don't look like over injected females. They look like very exotic humans. Like you can't quite pin there's something to it where you're like, I can't stop staring. And that's actually what's really fascinating about. But from a hot or not from this, I think that the take is hot. I think this is the kind of dialogue I want entering into the zeitgeist. We need to have more of these conversations. I think that there's going to be a large majority of people that there's just a percentage of the populace that wants the trash. They want the rage bait. They want to stare at people who are crashing and burning. Like there's there
was a reason why the tabloid magazines were at the checkout.
Yeah, it worked.
They were at the checkouts, right? Like that in the old days, that was digital media, like the tabloid at the checkout, reading.
But I'm ready for that to be like a segment of the population. Like when you like derogatory, it's like, oh, they're from the Jersey Shore. Like I'm kind of ready for that to become its own like category of people, because I think that hasn't entered into the zeitgeist.
It just seems like the masses make up the most likes, the most follows, but really is that where joy comes from? Because what digital media allows you to do is find your tribe across national borders, right? But we're always looking at what is the millions? But it's better to have 100 amazing friends across national borders and have your brand loved by 10,000 super customers. Yeah,
totally. I think as an aside, it doesn't bother me if people want, like, I actually think too, like all the power to you. If you want to do it, get it done. I think though the core thing is and I agree with you, but that's also what we're seeing on socials, right? Is that like people's tribes are being built up. Like people are following who they want to follow. I think the core piece to this is there's been a push to I can't talk about getting things done because you have, like, it needs to be natural. And that all of these faces popping up, it shows you that obviously, like, there's just, it's doing a lot of damage to young girls because they think that these big eyes and these big lips and these tiny waists and like it's all real and that they can't achieve it. And then they're all secretly getting injected younger and younger because like they feel conscious that they don't have it. So I think it's more that it coming out that that's not natural is important.
I think what everybody could do probably this week is just unfollow. You know how I tell business owners, fire your friends
Yep.
who aren't lifting you up?
Yep.
Well, same on your feeds, on your digital platforms. Like, start unfollowing people who aren't giving you healthy content,
you're right.
Like, just every week unfollow people, and for every 5 you unfollow, add one person who makes you a better human, not somebody who's just distracted by tabloid stuff.
I feel the same way, honestly. I was like lurking last night, Heidi Montag. I'm going to be completely raw here. I was like lurking Heidi Montag. He used to be like on one of my favorite shows. And it just makes me sad that she really is, she's kind of like she's like a dumpster fire. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of like, they're constantly clout chasing, you know, her and her husband are like nuts, you know, like she's kind of like a car accident. Like you don't want to watch, but you don't want to look away. And it like made me kind of annoyed, like how many people that I know, and it doesn't make me better because I was looking at her page and I realized in that moment how ugly it was that I was looking at her page as kind of like, oh, it's funny, you've become a pop star now. And how many people that I followed her. And I'm like, I just want to get to a point where like we're not fueling these attention seekers with attention and like acting like what they're doing is funny or cool, like at the expense of like us being able to kind of laugh at them. And I realized what I was doing in that moment. I'm like, I want to be better because I don't want these people's mental health. Like they're constantly on this roller coaster of trying to like seek attention and like where does it go for them?
That was a very deep statement there, Ms. Moore.
I know. So here's the second one for Hot or Not. So the whole trend is that through ChatGPT you can make like very real looking people and they're just expressing that like they're not real, they're just prompts. And like people are like creating their own through ChatGPT and it's really showing you how fast AI is developing and that there might be a movement of these disenfranchised AI bots that are angry because they're just prompts.
It's anthropomorphizing the avatars into...
The prompt is, I mean, the video is just showing how fast it's developing because we really haven't seen that before, like that many different like variants. And basically people are creating content showing that what they've created of their AI little movie scene saying, I can't do that, I'm just a prompt.
But it'll be interesting to see how it affects public discourse and even public protests, because you could create an avatar now that's telling a story of grief, you know what I mean? That's not even real. That might get millions of followers and then people go out on the streets. So I think the verification of what's real and not is a new market.
Oof, yeah.
Like how you verify humans, because avatars can now create huge disruptions. You know?
Yeah.
Like it's a scary time, but so I just tell people, double down on your brand, connect with good human beings, and be aware of AI. But you can get lost in it. It's actually overwhelming.
It is super overwhelming. I think it's hot from a standpoint of mass education and awareness to get everyone kind of prepared for what's coming at a rate we've never seen it come before. But it's not for the implications of what's coming.
Amazing.
So we'll hold up for Celine Dion next week, and we'll talk about branding and leadership, another breakthrough that we've had. So guys, as always, please share our content. If you enjoyed it, send it to a friend. Let us know
Make a comment. Tell us if we're right on or right out of order.
DM me if you're like, hey, really disagreed with what you said this week. Would love to hear that. And have a great week. See you next week.